What is up, everyone? In this lesson, we're going to basically refactor a little bit of our metrics, especially for the aggregator, right? So what is the problem? What's going on here? The problem is basically this, right? So we have our aggregator, and we basically do our metrics here inside of our business logic, right? So like I mentioned before, the way I structure microservices is to basically completely separate the business logic from transport, right? So you have the business logic, and then you have your transport, and then you have some kind of a logging, and then you have some kind of metrics, right? The problem is that each time we do for example, it's not so to say a problem for gRPC. Why? Because each time I'm getting a little bit sick, so my bad. Each time we basically call, where is gRPC here? Is this one. Each time we're gonna call a gRPC function, it's going to directly hit this gRPC thing, right? There is no basically overhead that's being called, right? There is no marshalling to be done. It's going to directly call the business logic here, right? So that's fine. But for HTTP, there is a problem. For HTTP here, in main, let us check real quick. You see, we're going to have all that stuff, right? We're going to have, for example, an error that can happen here if it's not get, if it's not the right method. There is an error that can happen if we cannot query the OBU as a method. There is a lot of stuff that can happen before we actually going to invoke the business logic, right? So the logging and instrumentation will only happen here, right? And that's not good, right? We want to, especially for HTTP, we want to capture the whole picture, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to fix that a little bit, right? So what we could do, first of all, let's basically, this is the main, we have gRPC here. Let me quickly see what's going on here. There's only aggregate here, to be honest. Don't we have something else to do in gRPC? I just remembered that. Let us open up Proto real quick, because I think we're missing something. Proto. Aggregate request, I think in HTTP. It's OBU, we don't want that. In aggregator main, we have also a function that is called as handle aggregate. That's basically the aggregate request, and then we have the handle get invoice. So maybe we should fix that, to be honest, also. But let's first fix our HTTP shenanigans, right? I'm gonna kill these things. And by the way, it's actually gonna be a good assessment for you guys to implement that, because it's just adding a request here. But we can do it together, no problem with that. So let's open up aggregator main. So what we're gonna do basically is we're probably gonna split this stuff out, actually. Yeah, why not? We're going to make a new file, and it's going to be http.go, right? Package main, and I'm going to try to basically open up the main from the aggregator and try to make stuff happen, make HTTP transport. That is questionable. That could basically stay in the main, but these two functions here, we're going to split that out, put that inside of here, save this. What's going on? I cannot save. Yes, I can. So that's nice. These make transports can stay in the main, I guess. But like these actual implementations, maybe we can split that out already, right? All right. What we're gonna do here is we're gonna say type. Let's call this an HTTP metric handler. That's gonna be a structure, actually. And let's do, for example, a request counter here. Let's call this a rec counter, which is going to be a Prometheus.counter, right? New HTTP metric handler, Perfectly fine. Do we need something here? Probably not. We're going to say an HTTP a pointer actually. HTTP metric handler, just like that, and we're going to make the counters right now. So we're going to say, for example, the rec counter is going to be an I think it's prom auto. No, actually, to be honest, it's going to be prom auto, I guess. New counter, Prometheus, counter ops. It's going to be namespace, I guess. HTTP. What we could do is actually call a function here, to be honest. Because if we do not specify for which kind of endpoint name it is, it's going to be very generic and you're not going to see for what it is. So we could say, let's call it the rec name. It's going to be a string. So what we could do here is do an fmt sprint f %s underscore %s. Let me see. We could do HTTP underscore. Maybe we could say a rec name. A request counter. Is that a good idea? And the name could be aggregator. Not quite sure if that's gonna turn out in Grafana. We will see. We can change that if we want. So we have a rec counter here, and then we're gonna basically return the HTTP metrics, and we're gonna say that the rec counter is going to be the rec counter here, right? So that's nice. This is a new thingy. That's perfectly fine. Actually, to be honest, I don't think we need. This is actually a little bit of a sad name. There is a problem here, and we're gonna keep it like that, and you're gonna see what kind of problem this will cause, right? So then we're gonna give this a method. For example, instrument. So we're gonna say, for example, handler HTTP instrument. That's gonna take in an handler. Actually, to be honest, you could say an fn handler. Or handler, it doesn't matter because I want to do h, but the problem is that it's going to be conflicting here. So what we could do is actually say mh, matrix handler, and this is going to be the handler itself, which is going to be an HTTP handler func, and it's going to return an HTTP handler func, right? We're going to say a return func, which is going to take in a response writer. HTTP response writer. And also a point to an HTTP request. And only, actually, to be honest, we could call this H. Just think about something. This is actually next. Why not? We could say next W R, right? And then actually, what we could do each time we're gonna hit this bad boy here, you're gonna say H request counter inc, right? Something like that. Instrument, that's fine. Good to even do the logging in there, it doesn't matter, we're gonna see. So we don't need to touch basically these handle get invoice shenanigans, I think. So what we could do, that's fine. You're gonna see what the problem is. If you go back to aggregator main here, what we're gonna do here at make HTTP transport is first of all, I'm gonna put this here. We're going to say that the matrix handler is going to be a new matrix middleware, matrix handler, by the way. And we're going to give, you can see we need to specify a request here. The problem is we don't know what request it is. That's the problem. Or we need to make two. Not quite sure if that's a good idea. So there's going to be handle aggregate. We could say mh.instrument, right? And then we're going to say handle aggregate and do it like that. Right, now we have this instrument shenanigans wrapping or aggregate handler, which will then basically log the requests coming from HTTP to that handler, to that aggregate function. So what I'm thinking here is, can we actually update the name? We can't, right? That would be so nasty. Actually, we need to make multiple. Look at this. We're gonna say here aggregate metric handler. It's gonna be the aggregate function, aggregate. And then we're gonna say aggregate metric handler for the instrument this handle aggregate, and we're gonna make another one which is going to be the invoice inv metric handler, which is going to be, this is actually a good idea, invoice, and that's gonna be here. We're gonna say invoice metric handler instrument this thing. Beautiful. We could actually make this cleaner by doing a var, but it's fine. So you can see what's happening. So we're making a new, because we cannot, we need to make two of these guys. Why? Because otherwise we're going to have the same request counter, right? And now we have this separated request counter here. So that's beautiful. Can we actually test this? The first thing I'm gonna do, guys, is see if I have the things running. I'm gonna create some bash things here, some shells. We need Prometheus, so I'm gonna say dot slash Prometheus slash Prometheus. That's gonna be config.file, I guess. It's going to be dot slash config dot config in my case, in your case also, actually, to be honest, unless you changed it. Prometheus, this is so annoying. Dot YAML, enter. Dash config, yeah, always forget that shenanigans. It's gonna be a dash config, press enter. That's running, so that's fine. Yeah, that's the only thing we need to do. Then I'm gonna say make egg like this. So now everything is running, and then I can actually open up a Thunder request here. Thunder request, perfectly fine. And then we're going to say HTTP localhost. That's going to be 4000. We changed that, right? And we're going to say aggregate. That needs to be, I'm going to send this, right? So it's going to be a problem method not supported. That should already trigger these requests, right? I have some stuff up. Let me open up, yada yada. Where is my fucking Chrome, to be honest? Here. Was ChatGPT open? Yes, I use that from time to time. Let's do this. Twitter. Boom, boom. If you're not following me on Twitter, guys, hey, follow me. Localhost. It's going to be 4000. I think metrics we need to have. Slash enter. We have this, right? Aggregator error. That's not what we want. We want HTTP. Can we find this? HTTP. Yeah, here. We have the HTTP aggregate request counter aggregator. So we can already see, because remember in some kind of an episode where we were wondering what's happening with these, where's our HTTP here? No, our metrics handler. Yeah, it's an HTTP. With these things, right? With these namespaces and name, we can see that the namespace will be first, and then the name itself will be concatenated after this request counter, right? You can see that. So HTTP, this is actually so fucking, you guys cannot see this, right? Look at that. This is better. Maybe one more for the blind homies. 200%, look at that. So it's going to be HTTP aggregate request counter underscore aggregator 1. This is 1, right? But if we do again, boom, 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 and then we refresh this, you can see that we wait. What's going on here? It's not incrementing. What's going on here? HTTP aggregate request counter aggregator. Actually, we could do something like localhost is always the same with these things. Where is Prometheus? This one. Let me see. HTTP. It's the aggregate function, right? Yeah. Let's execute this. We have one. That's actually weird. I should actually trigger. Did we make a mistake here? Because the error coming here, right? So we do increment here from auto. That's fine. Can we do a logging here? Just to see. Adding the counter. For. We don't know. We don't know what it is. Let's do make egg once again. Let's see what it is, guys. This debugging session is always good, right? So we're gonna do refresh here. It still sits at 1. That's crazy. Oh, maybe that's because we make it. That's it. We made a mistake. We made a big mistake. We cannot do it here. We need to do it here. Because the reason is this instrument method. I see it, right? Let me see. It's going to be in main here. Here, for example. This instrument method is going to get called at runtime once. I think. If you know what I mean, right? And then actually the underlying function is getting called each time. Yeah, that's it. Let's try. I hope so. That this is the case. Make egg, right? That should work, to be honest. That should be 0, right? Now it's good. Right now it's 0. That's exactly what we want. You see, 0 here, and then we're gonna do some requests. Boom, boom, boom. Adding the counter, right? And if we refresh the page, boom. Now we have 8, right? Execute. Wait. Can I do it again here? 8, right? Cool. That's nice. So let's recap here real quick because it's important. Because this, each time you're gonna make HTTP transport, which is basically each time you run the main, you run your aggregator, it's going to call this instrument and it's going to wrap around this handle get invoice, which basically means that everything that's gonna get called here is going to get called at the time make HTTP function is getting called. But this inside of here, that's getting called each request, right? Each request. And my battery is empty from my headset, but it's fine. And this is going to be called basically one time, right? Called at the beginning. Right? Very important. Okay, so you can see, you can add multiple metrics here. That's actually just a breeze. Is going to be, for example, a latency, right? That's something we want to measure. That's going to be, actually, to be honest, I'm going to call this a request, a latency. And we're going to change the other metrics, right? That's going to be a Prometheus dot histogram, right? Rec latency prom auto dot new histogram Prometheus histogram options. Let's copy these namespaces, paste them in. That's going to be a request latency. Beautiful. And we're going to say that actually we need to have buckets here, I guess. Still not sure what these buckets doing. If you are smarter than me, let me know. I think it is for this histogram stuff. I'm not an expert in it, but we need to do it like 0.1, I think, maybe 0.5 and 0 and 1, something like that. Rec latency, right? Boom. And I think, yeah, the next thing we need to do is in here, right? No. Yeah. Let's delete these comments here. We're going to make a defer func. Just like this. We're going to say time. I'm going to say start time now, right? And what we're going to do here is basically h rec latency observe time since start seconds. That's what we want, right? Adding the counter, we don't need this shenanigans. What you could do is do some logging here if you really want, some request logging. That it's gonna be amazing here. I think that's gonna be fine, to be honest, guys. Let's do this. Clear, make egg. That's the only thing we need to do, right? You can add metrics as much as you want. Doesn't really matter. Yeah. Yeah. Let's refresh this page. Can we do HTTP request counter aggregate? Maybe do some latency actually. Yeah, you see, we have the buckets, we have the count and everything. Still not sure how it's actually working. I think we need to do that in Grafana if you want to have a nice histogram here. I'm going to send a couple times here. Execute that. You can see the count of this latency aggregator count is 8. But you can also see, for example, latency aggregator, it's going to be bucket, I guess. Not quite sure what this is. Boom. You see that this is the... Actually, guys, I have no clue what these fucking buckets are or what they're doing. I think we also have something else. Can we see that? No, we can't. Wait, let me do HTTP. What is the sum? Bucket count sum. What's the sum actually? Let's see. Execute. Not quite sure what it is. If you know, let me know. But hey, like I said, we know how to do these things. I actually have no clue how to build these dashboards beautifully. But hey, don't pitchfork me for this. All right, so where are we here? Cool, the next thing. So now we have these things. What I don't... Well, so basically, if we open up our service... Aggregator, yes. So what we're doing here is you can actually do some cool stuff, right, with these metrics, because what you could do is going to be middleware. What you can actually do here is instead of doing these observes and latencies and increments for the business logic himself, you could delete that, right? And what you could do is, for example, yeah, you could, for example, what you could do is make a metric for each OBU. So you can see a nice dashboard where you can see all the aggregations for a single OBU, for example, right? That's something you can do. Actually, let's do one. Latency call it counter. Let's do a rec OBU counter. The question is how are we going to do this, because that's going to be very generic. I don't think we can do that, by the way, to be honest. I need to recall this because these OBUs are generic. Can we put generic metrics on the fly? I have actually no clue what happens if we call new counter on an already existing counter. Something you need to try out, right? But like I said, you can do a lot of... like I said, guys, you have the basics right now to add any kind of metric in a clean way, right? Let us be honest. Play around with this. There is the basics for any kind of metric you want can be added, right? That's for sure. But now we have basically not HTTP aggregator here. Now we have basically the option to check the latency of our HTTP requests, right? That's something that I really want to show, especially because the way you're gonna make this metrics handler and gonna wrap your existing handler and do that stuff without actually touching and making your handlers here dirty and pollute them with logging, right? That's the thing. And you can add logs here also, right? Do we have actually loggers here? Not quite sure, but you can add nice logging here. For example, do we have loggers? There's going to be in with fields, for example. With fields. Just giving you guys the foundation to do this stuff, right? Logrus.fields. For example, latency. Latency is fine. It's going to be, actually, to be honest, let's delete this. Let's call this latency, or took. Actually, latency is fine. It's fancier, right? Latency here. What's this? Observe. Latency here. Boom. Press enter. It's gonna be fine. What we could do? The problem is we don't know. I have an idea actually, guys. Look at this. Request. Request. Actually, we can know that, right? It's going to be in our yeah. We can do this. r.request URI, something like that. Do we want something more? I'm not quite sure. It's probably fine. Can we do this? Make ag here, boom. And then do some requests here, boom, boom, boom. That's not gonna trigger anything. Oh yeah, I know what's the problem. Very important here with HTTP. If you do this, loggers with fields, you need to call info or debug at the end. Otherwise, it won't log. Very important. Make ag. So new request and send. You're gonna see now we have this latency stuff, and we have the request is /aggregate. So you actually know what endpoint is getting triggered, right? And you can add multiple stuff if you really, really want to. Is there something else we can cover real quick here? Probably not. Like I said, maybe a little bit. Yeah, maybe that's going to be another topic because yeah, I want to make the videos that they are actually covering a specific topic each time. That's the thing. Let me quickly think about what we can actually do again. I think that's fine. Yeah, so these both endpoints are basically, let's try actually, make ag. This invoice, I'm gonna be a get request /invoice OBU is this. Let's send that. Right, we're gonna have this OBU. That's perfectly fine for the logs. I'm thinking because there are some actually adjustments we can do if we really want to. So again, the problem we have here is this HTTP handler func is the default Golang HTTP handler func, which is an amazing it's an amazing thing. It's an amazing type function, right? Look at this. Nice simple thing which we can do a lot of stuff with. The problem is that it does not return an error. I love to see here an error, right? But it isn't. So the reason why we don't have that, what's going on here? The problem why we don't have that is that we cannot intercept errors here, right? In this request latency, yeah, in this logging, right? If there is an error right here, we cannot find them. Where is our error? How do we fix that, right? So if this request, where is this thing? If this next here, if that could return an error, right? That would be nice because then we can log that also and also instrument that. So I think that's what we're gonna do in the next thing. It's very important stuff, in my opinion. We're gonna change that up, our handler func here. Did I actually already make something here? I don't think so because in the JSON API we are using fiber, which returns an error. But this is basically our own custom HTTP stuff. Let's do that also. It's important so we can have our errors here because otherwise we are sitting in the dark, right? Cool. I see you in the next one.